Hi, I'm Patrick.
Hi, I'm Sim.
And we're Wizard Core. 3, 2, 1.
Fuck you, Ridley Scott.
Yes.
That's basically it.
Yeah, so as you probably can tell by the title of this, we watched Alien Romulus release day, like the day it came out, right?
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah, today's Thursday.
The R's day.
Yeah, we literally just got back from the theater, and we were gonna do a slightly different episode, but we're just making this about Alien Romulus
because we have a high.
We have we both I think have so much to talk about with this
probably
movie.
Many aside tangents.
Oh, for sure. We're making this the Alien Romulus episode.
Yes,
like
possibly side tangent on Ridley Scott and other Alien movies. So
yeah, just probably mainly for like
no
some
way
context.
is this an official review either. I mean, this is us talking about the movie and our thoughts and feelings, and at the end we'll give it a numbered score. Just kidding.
Also, absolute major spoiler.
Yeah, major spoilers.
We're talking about this. We have to just talk about this movie. I'm gonna break the format. You talk first because you're the more of like the alien.
I love aliens.
I
love aliens and Predator and To Catch a Predator.
You had to see that right as I was taking a sip of water. It has a 7.5 It has a 7.5 already on IMDb.
That's not too bad. That's better.
That's better than I thought.
My first thing is go see the movie, please. If you're a fan of the Alien franchise, I will say go see the movie. To me personally, I think the first thing I said, we both think it's great.
Yeah, it's really,
to me,
really
the
good.
official trilogy is now Alien, Aliens, and Alien Romulus, and everything.
Oh yeah.
Past this is
everything for the past 30 years up until this point after Aliens does not compare to this movie. Like, it's so much better.
Yeah.
It's leagues better.
I've been given Prometheus the benefit of the doubt for the longest time, just because it was like the closest good thing we've gotten to
an alien movie,
and
this came in and totally changed that.
It made me not like Prometheus again. It's still okay.
Prometheus has always just been an okay movie.
Okay, and I think it's like rose-colored glasses when you've just been shoveled shit for so many years, and you're like, we're never gonna get another good one. But this is what happens when you give a franchise to somebody who gives a fuck about the franchise. Fede Alvarez, who also did the 2013 Evil Dead remake, also one of the best remakes of all time, in my opinion.
Oh, did he?
And he did Don't Breathe, and
he says he did the screenplay. He also did The Girl in the Spider's Web.
Yeah,
He did Don't Breathe. He did the Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
He did. It says the story was by him. Did he direct it?
What?
No, he didn't. The remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No. He did the script for it.
Oh God, but probably not good.
So
that one was garbage.
No, he has kind of, at least from a writing perspective, from what I just briefly viewed on IMDb, he has kind of a spotty track record. But this is one of the highest in his career so far. Like, I just, hands down.
Yeah.
Like, this, you can tell that this, I mean, like you said, like, they put finally, because Neil Blomkamp must feel so just like, what's the word? He must feel so butthurt now that this movie came out. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they allow him. They can't.
I hope so. I hope he gets his chance.
He needs.
Again.
If they allow him,
I wanted to see his
I did too.
Alien sequel so bad.
And they can't do it with Sigourney Weaver anymore because she's literally too old now.
Yeah.
I don't think it would work. Or if she's in it, if she's going to be in it, it needs to be kind of a small role.
Yeah.
But I think after this movie, Fidel Alvarez needs to produce the next one, and it should be Neil Blomkamp directing.
Yes.
That's because
I think so, yeah. I would love to see a Neil Blomkamp.
And Fidel Alvarez and the other writers for this one need to write it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's obviously that he gives a flying fuck about it. You can tell, maybe not so much in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but in Evil Dead, I think he wrote the Evil Dead remake as well.
Yeah,
it's obvious that he gave a fuck about that franchise too, because it was legitimately good. and then this one too, and also one of my side opinions is
he did right co-write
okay.
it.
One of my little side opinions here is Evil Dead. To me, is a perfect horror franchise because I think none of them have missed. I think every single
none of they don't really have much to do with each other.
Yeah, but
besides the first two.
Every single one of them has been good. The first, second, third movie, the TV series has been amazing. The remake that he made and the sequel to it's not really a sequel to the remake, but it is kind of like a sequel to the remake.
Well, we can
the
add
Evil
this
Dead Rises.
Well, this comes into play with what we were talking about last episode, where like Beyond 3.
Yeah,
like this kind of that falls into that.
Well, just to add on to
that's what I mean. Like, but okay. Because we're in spoilers, I really would like to talk about the story of this movie because the story was surprisingly great.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I even talk about that, David Johnson, who plays Andy in this movie, he is the best character. He is practically the main. He's not the main character of this movie, but he's practically the main character. He hardcore. Kaylee Spaney that plays the main character, she's really good. Okay?
She's really good.
But David Johnson fucking kills it in this movie. He kills it really hard.
He plays an android named Andy.
So let's get into the story just to make it make sense for people. So it opens. I forget the name of the planet. It says it in there, but basically it opens on a mining planet that Wayland
with zero daylight.
Yeah,
zero daylight.
I loved that little thing.
Number hours of daylight zero.
And you can tell.
Yeah.
But
it's just a desolate ass fucking planet. Everybody looks miserable.
I mean, so real quick thing. There was like this whole we were talking about this a second before we were recording. There was a thing online where it's like, oh, it's like Gen Z the movie, it's teenagers the movie. That decision fucking works really well.
Yeah.
All the actors are really good. So like, if you're gonna go see this, like, don't even think about that. They do a fantastic job.
Yeah,
they're really good.
Well, it's like kind of like the original. People were complaining about it, but the whole cast of the original was relatively younger-ish.
They were like 30s. Maybe some of them were in their 40s. But these ones are actually, they're like younger than us, and we're not that old. We're in our late 20s.
Yeah, and
they're good.
Yeah,
they're like really good.
They're decent. They were decent to great. Specifically, Andy was great.
David Johnson was fantastic. Again. So the story of the movie, it opens with Kaylee Spaney's character and David Johnson's character. David Johnson, you find it's not immediately revealed, but David Johnson's character it's revealed pretty quickly into the movie that he is the brother essentially of Kaylee Spaney's character, and it's interesting the way they reveal that in the dialogue, because he's like, oh, when you were like 12, like you used to always laugh at those jokes, and she's like older now, and you're like, but he says that before they reveal that, and I was thinking in the movie, I was like, but you look like not that old. I feel like you'd be older looking. And also they say she refers to him as his brother. And I was like, well, because he's black, first of all. So I was like, okay, so he's like a stepbrother, or what's the deal?
And then immediately after is when the like punk kids speaking like jarblings at him. I couldn't understand a word. I didn't know if there was like another
They basically were demeaning him for being like an android, basically.
And that's when you're like, oh. And then later on you figure out that her father like found him in like a dumpster or some shit and repurposed him to be like a caregiver almost.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, to take care of her.
And he's also, the way that it's really interesting, I didn't know how to feel about his performance initially, because he plays him like
he's dysfunction. He's a dysfunctioning robot, and it comes off as very autistic.
It does, but it does. And at first I didn't know how to feel about it, especially when you didn't know that he was a robot. I was like, so is this guy's thing? He's just autistic?
They're going to bring an autistic kid in an alien movie.
And then they explain it.
It's going to be like the Predator all over again.
Yeah. And then they explain it, and it's literally him
where autism can fight the aliens. That's
frankly,
what the Predator did. That's what they did with the Predator franchise.
If this movie did anything, it proved that, right? It fucking proved that autism can fight the aliens. Mm-hmm. But basically the story is that they're on this mining planet. It's a hellhole, and
that's what I was gonna say about the point of it being a young cast. Was like you're getting to the point of,
so the point of it being the point. So again, this also works from a story perspective. The point of it being a young cast is they're kids that are like just stuck on this planet, like literally,
like forced to work. Their parents are like dead from like cancer from work.
Mining.
I forgot what the fuck
they're
disease
mining.
It was called or something.
They basically said it was cancer.
It's space cancer. It's space cancer.
Yeah, Spancer. Yes.
Spancer. So their parents are dead from Spancer, basically, and so they're trying to get the fuck off the planet.
Yeah,
because they don't want to be dying of Spancer either.
So she meet those two, Andy and her name Kaylee Spaney plays Rain. Rain and Andy do a little powwow with their friends, basically, where their friends make a plan because they pick up on a scanner that there's like they think it's a ship at first. Yeah. There's a ship that randomly that they know they can just tell it's been abandoned and whatnot. Mm-hmm. It's like appeared in the atmosphere, and they themselves have access to like a small little like I don't even know what kind of ship it was for. It was like it was meant to carry like
cargo. It's like a cargo ship.
Yeah.
Later on, there's like sand and shit in it. It looks like they like shovel, something. They would carry.
It's space ore, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. Like mining. Yeah. It's like why would I say cargo? They're on a mining planet. Like that.
Well, it is. I think it is literally supposed to be like a cargo because it carries it like it's a little like freighter
they would
thing.
Put the mining shit in the whatever they're mining
transport
it, and so they have access to that.
Yeah. So and it can go into space. So they do this little. They make their little plan.
And this is all like the first 10 minutes. They get set up and into the ship in no time. They don't dilly dally.
Not at all.
Going into this movie.
It's such a tight movie.
Yeah, it's very for 2 hours too.
It's really tight.
It's like a 2-hour movie.
It's just under 2.
Yeah, so they really put in the effort to milk the shit out of the runtime.
Because they told a lot of story in that 2 hours. But so they get up there. Actually, I want to hold on this particular bit. How they executed the ship going into space was fantastic.
Yeah,
because it's not like it literally just goes like straight up, basically from like if you were in a car, instead of like the front end of your car going towards space, imagine the roof of your car going towards space. Basically, that's how they executed it. The sound design. I know that like most of the ships, in particular that ship that they're on, was a physical model as well. So like all the shots of
we watched a bunch of like
we watched featurettes.
The featurette, the behind the scenes, and like a lot of the stuff with like they even showed how the mining planet that they were on was like practical. But like some of the background fill
besides
stuff,
the sky was replaced
and stuff, but like the main hall that they like walk down
like
on
that
has the bar,
that big open area and everything.
That has the like bar sign.
They made
shit.
that.
That was all like
they just made it.
Like the road was like actually there.
I don't even think they extended it either. They had like a really large.
I remember
space
seeing
to
that
film
in one of the featurettes.
Because in the featurette, I remember when we were watching it before we watched the movie, I was like, oh my god, like this movie. I know we're trying to talk about the story, and obviously this podcast is side tangents. The podcast, but the production design in this movie is so fucking good.
Yes.
And
the environments, everything.
It's not just because they were faithful, which they are. They're faithful specifically to the first Alien movie. They're faithful to that, but it's what they do with it that's fantastic because there's so much of it. You can tell. It's not like when you watch like a lot of Marvel movies, like they're on green screen and shit. There was no moment at all where I felt like that.
Fake.
No,
this is CGI. All the environments
they felt so real. They felt unbelievably real.
I mean, it's a lot of like corridors and inside the ship, but I mean, it like sprawls out too.
For sure.
At points, but there was no point where I was like, this is a fake environment. Like they interact with everything.
Yeah. So they get to the ship, and that you learn, hence the name of the movie. The ship is called the Romulus, but it's actually technically the Romulus Ramus, because the ship is split into two parts, two halves. One half is Romulus and one half is Ramus, and you were explaining to me the significance of them being named
kind
that.
of in the movie as well, which is
they more like hinted at it instead of being direct with it.
Yeah, because they had the little presentation.
When they first got on,
and they have the two the symbols of the like piglets suckling on the pigs, and it's like the life givers, which comes into play later in the movie.
For sure it does.
But it goes with the themes of like the other name, like Prometheus and stuff, and
it falls right in line with that like naming system.
Yeah,
but in a really good way.
Covenant.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
gods. Kind
gods
of thing.
and religion. And like life. You know. Yeah.
So they get up there, and it takes actually, and this is a really good part, like thing in the movie. It takes a minute. Like a good minute
once they
before
get up there,
before you even
they
see.
go through the process of getting in. It's not like easy for them to get. They have to like go in. They find the life pods, and then something goes wrong.
Wait, we didn't explain that. So part of the reason, this is actually the main reason they're trying to get up there. They could do like a scan, and you may hear police outside, but we're going to continue. The main reason they're going up there is because they did a scan of this little station. And it turns out that there are like cryopods from, Alien 1 and Aliens. There's active cryopods up there. And the reason they need cryopods is because the closest like livable space from where they're at is 9 light years away.
That's not in Weyland-Yutani territory.
Yeah, so they're completely
where they're
free.
Get worked to death because something you kind of skipped over is that when she goes initially, she's worked the amount of hours that she needed to work to get off the planet.
Yes.
But they upped her hours because they have shortage of workers, which implies that they died.
Correct.
From the. So they need more workers. They're
so
just
it's just an endless cycle.
Yeah, it's an endless. They're gonna work them to death,
which again comes into their. It's a perfect motivation when they get the fuck off this planet.
They're never gonna get off the planet.
Yeah,
and so the life pods is that they have a ship. If they can get the life pods, or the hypersleep pods, then they will be able to fuel themselves for a 9-year travel. To get to a non-Weyland-Yutani system and like be okay.
And another thing that incorporates the character of Andy, and they actually need him, is because he's
for two reasons. Because he can, as they put it in the movie, he can speak mother, quote unquote. Yeah. Because he's an android, so he can know the ship's systems. Basically,
and the system is called Mother.
Yeah, so he can speak mother, which means he can like stick his weird finger.
That's what he does. He literally, it's almost like a fingerprint scanner thing. He puts his finger in these things and it opens doors.
Yeah, doors and shit. And then on top of that, he can stay awake the entire time for their travel.
Exactly.
To the system and like watch over the pods and control the ship because he's an android.
Yeah. And I'm kind of blanking a little bit on exactly what happens once they get into the ship. I remember a lot of things that happen. I remember now.
Okay, I can
go. I remembered it as I was.
So they get to the ship, and then that's initially where they introduce the idea of the gravity system. That they have to purge the gravity so it doesn't implode on the ship doesn't implode on itself.
Yeah, so the gravity's basically constantly cycling on and off.
Yeah,
for a minute.
So the two characters have to crawl through into the main ship, and they find the life pods, or the hypersleep pods, but the batteries are low, so they are only going to last them about like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and it takes 9 to get where they need to go.
So they basically
need new batteries.
Yeah, they need new batteries and more power. And one of the characters figures he has this little device that allows them to scan for cold objects.
Yeah.
And because it's a cryo freeze, the batteries would be cold, so they're able to scan across the ship and see that there's another cryo chamber somewhere around. And so they go there to get the new battery. And then they drop off they shoot the cryo sleep chambers out the airlock, out out there, this little airlock into the ship that they're on.
They literally catch it.
Yeah, and then that ship swoops around to dock to the new location that the two that are walking through the system are going. And then they end up in a laboratory.
And this is the scene that's in like all the trailers.
Yeah, basically. And this is where shit gets real.
Yeah, so they find him. First of all, they press buttons to see the charge level, and they're charged basically, and they're trying to get them out.
So it's the kind of like action hero. I'm gonna call him action hero captain because I don't remember his name. Action hero captain, British guy, and then Andy.
Yeah.
Both the action hero captain and British guy are.
They're together.
They're both British. But British guy is way more douchey British.
What's his name? I don't know if I can. I think it's Spike Fern. He plays Bjorn. Is the guy?
I'm just gonna call him British guy.
Yeah, British guy. Anyway, so they get so it's also revealed in the same scene that in the cryo. So the important context.
Yeah.
In this room, it's like partially flooded.
Yeah.
Which is it's insinuating that things have had time to thaw in this room. And in the room...
While walking into the room as well, the lab is fucked up. And they see that there's like a hole in the wall, the hole in the floor. And they're like, oh, it must have been a chemical leak. And then there's like a half dead, half alive, not half burned through android and shit on the floor.
Yes.
Who's the science officer. He comes into play.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him in a second.
Yes. And then, so they go into the lab, and then it's like half flooded, like Patrick here was saying, and they pull out one of the cryo batteries, and the room goes into lockdown because.
And at the same time, it partially freezes one of the guy's fingers together.
Yeah, partially freezes one of the dude's fingers together, but it goes into lockdown because they don't know this room is supposed to stay cold. Because it's hibernating, basically, face hugger. Like, it's a room full of face hugger, like, in these, like, little sacks, basically.
Yeah, they're in these really well-designed, like, kind of clear plastic wombs, almost, that are meant for transportation.
Down because the temperature is starting to go up, and so the room knows it's an error, and when Andy tries to get out...
He doesn't have the authorization.
He doesn't have the authorization. Only a science officer can have the authorization. So this forces the pilot and Rain to get off the ship because Captain Badass, I'm switching his name around, Captain Badass.
It works. He was badass in the movie.
Yeah, his sister is pregnant, but he doesn't know, and she's on the ship sick, so she stays on the initial minor shuttle. And so the pilot and the sister and Rain have to get off and go to the lab because it locks down. And they're trying to figure out a way to get out because they got the batteries, but the door's locked down and they can't get out. And then the face huggers are starting to come out of their little hidey spouts. They're starting to warm up and come out and have some fun time, having some fun huggy face time. And so Rain has the idea to get the chip from
the downed android.
To give Andy the authorization to be the science officer, which is set up earlier that they can do that early because she can reset Andy because when he's like beaten by these punk kids on the street, she has to reset him because he's all so
he has like a little like freak out moment where he can't do anything.
Yeah. And so she gives it to Captain Badass, and
he puts it in him, but it has to like completely reset him.
It reset him, and so he like shuts down.
And he's like stuck in place.
Yeah, and he's stuck in place, and that's when the face huggers try to get British guy and Captain Badass. And all hell breaks loose in this fucking
room.
And
the two chicks are trying to like open the door the entire time.
Well, Rain is the pilot's like freaking out behind her. Remember, she's like, she's like, oh, she starts like praying behind her. She's like freaking out.
Yeah, and she's like, help me.
She's a turner. She's like, what the fuck? Help me.
Yeah, exactly.
And the two dudes almost get face hugged.
Oh, many times. Like, many times. That shot was badass, too. Like, so there was a
lot of dicks and mouths, sort of, like, just trying to fucking...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Dodging dicks.
But, so, the point is, Andy does come back online, and the way they show him coming back online is badass, because it's literally...
That's the initial tick, too, that it's, like... Because even then, I was like, I wonder if that did something to him. Just because... That's the initial, like,
kickoff. It was too quick. Because it's set up beforehand that he's not really that, like,
Captain
agile.
Badass gets knocked out by British guy, because British guy is
being dumb.
Is stupid, because he has this taser thing, and when one of it jumps on Captain Badass, he tasers
his face,
tasers his face, so it tasers both the face hugger and the dude.
Yeah.
And so it knocks him out, and then the face hugger tries to jump on Captain Badass while he's knocked out and waking up.
Exactly.
And then Andy grabs the tail.
Yeah. And the way that it was shot too was badass, because it started at this, like, it wasn't necessarily a wide shot, but it was like the face hugger. It was following the face hugger, and it was this, like, extreme, like, Dutch angle tilt thing, and it's slowly tilting and going down onto Captain Badass, and then Andy the face hugger tries to jump on him, and Andy just grabs it in midair and gets them out of there.
Yeah.
And isn't it immediately afterwards that a returning character from the series returns?
Like Andy gets them out of there, but then, like, as they're running out of the initial room, that's when all the face huggers break out and chase it. There's so
much stuff happens in this movie.
No, it keeps going after that. Yeah. You just skipped over, like, 3 different things right there, because the face huggers chase them out further, and then they shut another door, which one face hugger gets through. And then
gets
the pilot.
Yeah.
And then they realize it's choking her, and they don't know how to help her.
Yeah.
So that's why they're returning, because Andy is all of a sudden British now.
Yeah, he is. He becomes Captain British.
Yeah, now but Andy becomes Captain British Badass.
Yeah, he does. He gains a British accent, and he speaks better, and he's way more like...
And he doesn't have the, like, tick anymore.
Yeah, he's normal, essentially. He, like, is more with it, quote unquote.
And so they pick up the science officer, who you don't really see the face, and they put him on the table, and it's the likeness of Ian Holm as Ash from the first movie. But I chuckled to myself because it looks like a Team America World Police puppet version of Ian Holm.
Yeah.
And I thought that this is my first nitpick of the movie, because I was like, this took me so off guard at first. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Because I'm curious, because obviously they didn't want to reveal that in, like, any promotional material. I'm curious how they did it, because it literally looks like it was a practical puppet. Like, it actually had a physical, practical face on it.
Yeah.
But they also did, like, you could just see it. There was some, like, it was either a deep fake or just, like, an actual CGI head that they animated on it.
Yeah.
And I was telling you this, I almost wish they just had gone full... I wish they had gone full just puppet, honestly, because he's already fucked up.
Yeah.
Because he's literally chopped in half. Yeah. Half of him is, like, really messed up. But he's still...
Like they did in the original movie.
Exactly.
Well, I think the original movie...
Well, the original one, he got his head ripped off, right?
Yeah,
or is that
it was his... He had the head, and it was on the table. That's what...
Yeah.
Because initially it's what is it?
I don't remember.
What's the word for it? Like
pedestal?
A prosthetic that they put on, and it looks kind of dumb because it was the 79. It's like a head prosthetic.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No, the terminology for, like,
a bust.
It's like a bust. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like a head bust or a head prosthetic when you, like, chop somebody's head off in a movie.
Oh, decapitated.
But, like, the term...
I can tell I'm not helping you.
No, not at all.
I'm sorry. I'm blanking on what you're trying to describe.
It's not the movie itself, but in the world of prosthetics and, like, makeup and stuff when you, like... Never mind.
I'm sorry. I'm totally...
Yeah, but it was they put a prosthetic version of it, like a prosthetic recreation of his head on a table, and you could obviously tell it's like a dummy head, and then it like cuts to them and cuts back, and then all of a sudden it's like his
hole in the floor kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't that. This is full CG face. The body was real.
Yeah,
it looked real. It was definitely real.
It gives off,
but it gives off Team America.
It gives off Team America vibes, big time.
But his character works though.
Yes,
like it. He basically is the villain of the kind of right
kind of side villain.
He's one of the villains.
He's kind of side villain too.
Well, that's another thing, because so as we said, they got like this like extra disc thing that they put into Andy from the character's name in this movie is Rook.
We skipped over a couple things with that too.
Because
Andy finds out from Rain that once they get to this new place that Andy's not going to be allowed to be there because in Weyland-Yutani
there's basically
galaxies, there's no androids allowed.
Correct.
And so they're either going to have to decommission him or send him away. Yeah. And Rain never had the heart to tell him that.
Yeah.
And so he learns from British guy, because he's like the dick character. He's the douchebag. And because they give a quick explanation that he hates synthetics because his mom was killed
because of basically a logistical decision
by
essentially.
A synthetic.
It was kind of like that train thing where it's like
kill a few to save many.
Correct. Yeah, it was that kind of situation.
It's
his
like
mom,
2 seconds of dialogue to explain his character, which means nothing because he's just there to die.
He dies pretty cool too.
Yeah, later. And so he kind of it kind of sets his character up to be like, they're like, well, he doesn't care because he doesn't feel anything.
Andy's character?
Yeah. And then you're like, he seems like he's a little hurt because his prime directive was written by her father. And his prime directive is to take care of her.
Yeah. It's to do what's best for Rain. Yeah.
Jinx.
Yes, Jinx. We do so much on this show.
Yeah. And so... So that kind of sets up Andy. And so when the Weyland-Yutani science officer disc thing is put in, there's a new prime directive put into it.
Which isn't revealed immediately, which I liked. That was good, because I was like, well, what is it? It's what you'd think it is.
Yeah,
but I liked that they didn't reveal it immediately. Yeah. I'll just say it, right? Because whatever. It's to do what's in the best interest of the company.
Yes. But also with that, there's like an underlining tone that he is kind of upset that Rain would want to leave him.
It's implied that even though he has this extra...
it's implied that even though he's an android synthetic that doesn't have feelings, that he kind of does have feelings almost.
And it also, if you think logistically, because the way they did it, she didn't remove... So it's like discs,
which
basically.
Actually goes back to real quick. Technically, I think it's not a fan theory, but Alien and Blade Runner are supposed to take place in the same universe.
I would not be surprised. Yeah. I've heard that before. They totally fit.
I think it's supposed to be like a legit thing that's...
Well, that would make sense because Weyland-Yutani would be the off-world people. Mm-hmm. And then Blade Runner's Earth.
Tyrell.
Yeah, Tyrell is everything going on Earth, basically. Anyways, that would totally make sense.
Yeah, so I just put that together with like, I wonder if Andy would be like one of those type of...
Synthetics, basically.
Synthetics that like would feel like Rutger Hauer's character, Ryan Gosling's character.
What do they call them in Blade Runner?
Replicants. Yeah. Anyways.
So regarding what I was talking about with the discs, like, so when she puts the she doesn't like remove his Andy. She doesn't remove his personality and replace it. She puts like another thing on top of him, basically, which makes sense because it's implied that he's still, even though he's like has this new.
It looks like there's multiple too. Like they like put multiple things on top of each other.
Yeah, like imagine
so he keeps learning. Basically.
Yeah, imagine like literally stacking like DVDs, but like really, really, really tiny ones. Yeah. That's how they present it in this movie. So it's basically implying that like even though he's like kind of having shit rewritten on him, he's not like gone.
Yeah.
He's kind of in a way doing this against his will.
Because he talks
in a way.
to Rain like he is
Andy.
not like he's a science. And he even says that it's like he's just able to comprehend better and like think faster, and that his body is like
working better,
but he's not like smarter or know everything that.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't like. He actually says it. He doesn't like. He didn't gain knowledge. He gained capacity, basically.
But anyways, they resurrect the science officer named Rook, who's not Ash. It's Rook.
It's a different character.
Yeah.
But it's
to
the same
try to
visual
get
of the guy.
face hugger off of the pilot, and they work through some theories, and they decide to freeze the base of the tail.
Yeah. In order to get it to release from her neck, so they can pry it off her face.
And it gets off of her.
Which was perfectly gross.
Yes. Like, oh my god, dude, that thing, it like pulls out of her. I wonder if they really did that.
It looked real.
Oh yeah, and it pulls out, but that thing was in there.
It was in there.
Oh god.
It was gross.
It's gross.
It was grimy. It was like, oh fuck.
Like, I'm talking about like balls deep in there.
That's an accurate description. She took it.
Yeah. But and then Brooke is like, I give her 60-40. And they're like, what do you mean? That? And then he's like, that the creature finished the job.
Yeah.
That it was doing. And he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because they don't really even know what's going on at this point. They're still like, what the fuck is happening?
Even Rook doesn't really know. Because Rook...
well, does he? Well, no.
No, because he doesn't say definitively what it was doing, because all Rook knew... was the original xenomorph, because this is also where it explains that the xenomorph that they took in was the xenomorph from the first movie.
Which is set up in the opening sequence, but you don't really know that until this moment.
So they took in the first xenomorph that didn't die in space. It was just like basically floated around forever and unable to die, so it just like built sediment around itself.
Yeah, it basically gets stuck in like a rock cocoon.
Yeah,
basically.
And so when they cut it out,
Yeah.
it like created chaos on the ship, and then they shut it down, and then were able to get like eggs from it, so, like the face huggers somehow. And
stuff. They didn't really go into like what happened to the original. At least I say original. They didn't explain what happened. They just
it died because that's what was hanging from the raft. That's what they were looking at.
That's right. It did die, but everybody else was dead.
Yeah,
too.
They killed it, but they
killed everybody else.
I think it got out after they were like doing experiments and shit on it. But
and Ash, or his name's not Ash. In this movie, it's Rook. Rook clearly was the one that like got it because that's where that hole in his body was cut in half by the acid and shit.
Mm-hmm. So he says that she has 60-40 that it finished the job, because I don't even think they've seen like what the face huggers are capable of, like what it does.
They just have a bunch of them.
And then so when they're trying to go back to the ship, Andy stops them and he's like, I can't let you go back on the ship.
And this, before you continue, this is where David Johnson's absolutely fantastic performance really starts to come into play, because he does a very hard switch up.
Yeah, well,
it's not hard, but
it's not hard because Rook tells him at this point he's like humans are emotional, and he's like, they will never see the hard factual truth that they can't like handle. He's like, you cannot allow that thing to leave this ship.
Exactly.
And so that's when Andy stops him from leaving, but then British guy zaps him because he hates fucking synthetics. And then he goes flying, and then Captain Badass and the Rain go to check on Andy, and then British guy and the pilot go to the ship.
And they're trying to like leave.
Yeah,
they're trying to leave them behind.
Get the fuck out of there.
And I remember when watching, I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're leaving your friends and shit behind. What's going on?" They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they're just trying to get she's trying to get the pilot out. And then Andy looks at Rain and says something like, "I failed you before. I did something like wasn't able to look out for you before, but I'm looking out for you this time. They can't leave. And he gets up and he fucking
books it.
He Tom Cruise runs after these motherfuckers, man.
What was in Terminator 2? What was the model number?
The T-1000.
He T-1000's that shit.
T-1000's the fuck out. Like,
and it's amazing.
After him.
And also the sequence. So okay. The reason why he's chased... Oh, wait, no, we haven't gotten there yet.
What?
Sorry, I got it mixed up. Yes, he's T-1000ing after them, and he doesn't get them.
So the British guy stops, and he seals it off, and shuts it off, and then they go to attempt to take off, and the pilot's about to... Like,
meanwhile,
do
also,
that.
The
sister doesn't know what the fuck is going on.
The pregnant sister doesn't. She's been asleep this whole time, so she doesn't know. She's been on the ship the whole time, so she doesn't know what's going on. And the pilot comes up, who got impregnated.
Yeah,
she comes up and is like trying to get stuff off, and that's okay.
And this is when
this sequence was amazing.
And this is when it starts to kick
into gear.
Because that's when the chest burster starts to fucking come out.
But
she's trying to fucking leave.
Yeah.
And the sister wakes up and she's like, "What the fuck's going on? I don't know how to help you."
Mm-hmm.
Because she. Earlier from the lab, the pilot takes this little fucking X-ray
It's like
gimmick.
an X-ray thing.
It's a cool idea to use, but it's very like not to get like nitpicky with it, but it's very much a like they set it up when she picks it up from the lab,
and she like goes, "Oh, cool!"
And you're like, I know exactly what the fuck this is about to be used for.
Yeah,
like it's the gimmicky thing for the scene, but it's still cool.
It's an X-ray flashlight.
Yeah, it's an X-ray flashlight, and she puts it behind herself, and you can see the fucking the chest burster popping out, and the sister's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and as the chaos starts happening, the pilot. Because she's like, she's
convulsing and she's like spewing up.
She hits the joystick for the ship, and the ship does a full, just straight line.
Yeah.
And the way that was shot and everything about that was so tense and like perfect. Remember when they it's first happening and they cut to inside the station and the lights from the ship are like causing the shadows from it's causing light rays to go through the thing, and you just hear this.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did not get annihilated in that ship while that happened was a miracle.
For like a real second, I was like, how are they going to bring the alien into this? Because I thought everybody was going to die on that ship.
Yeah.
But they don't. They
basically they fuck a lot of shit up on the way.
They do fuck the ship up.
They fuck both ships up.
The ship up.
They do.
Yes.
They basically... It literally does like a straight line and gets like knocked around a bit, and they land in essentially like a little cargo docking bay. They hit a fuel tank.
Yeah, they hit a fuel tank.
They
hit. That's a whole other thing that we missed.
There's so many good setups and payoffs in this movie.
There's a lot of there's so much good tension built. Because it sets up. I forgot what the wording for it is in terms of the storytelling of creating. When you set up an overall time.
You're talking about Chekhov's gun?
No, not Chekhov. That's when you set up something. It's like a time. There's a word for it, but it's like when you set a time limit for something in the movie that creates something in the back of the viewer's head saying, "Hey, that's something that's going on," so that immediately is tension.
Yeah.
And so they set up earlier in the movie that. The ship that they were on, which is the Romulus, is an abandoned derelict ship, so there's no one controlling it, and it's slowly falling onto the ring of the planet.
Oh yeah, so the planet
it will be destroyed.
There's a Saturn, the planet that they're on, Saturn, it has rings around it, and it's slowly drifting because there's nobody running. It's slowly been drifting into the atmosphere, but because they hit this fuel tank.
So first,
sorry, I keep getting.
Yeah. So at
you
first
paid attention more than I did.
At first they're like, "Oh yeah, it's not gonna happen for another 36 hours."
Yeah.
But because they hit the fuel tank, it knocks it off its axis and descends quicker.
Yeah.
And so it turns it into
an hour.
An hour.
Yeah.
Anyways, so then that's when the ship lands in the hangar 2.
Yeah, the little ship that they're in.
Romulus,
It lands in like a docking hangar thing.
Yeah, and it knocks some glass. It hits a window, which depressurizes into the space. So that's why the hangar doors close.
Yeah.
So
now Andy and the other two have to go get them.
Yeah, and then the little
face hugger,
not the face hugger, the chest burster.
The alien
sticking out of the pilot's chest, and just
it's all done practically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is another thing that we're talking about. It looks
so good.
Much of this is done practically.
It looks so good.
So much of this movie looks it's
amazing.
Looks so fucking good, because not just the production design of the environments, but a lot of the shit just like looks like it's there. It looks fucking terrifying.
It's kind of unreal how good it looks.
Yeah.
Especially because it's,
even if it's like not all CG, not all practical, there's so much practical or stuff that's practical and just like slightly enhanced by CGI, that the CGI that is used is like,
you don't even see it anymore.
You don't see it anymore. That it's like, like Mad Max Fury Road.
Exactly.
And like Jurassic Park, where it's like so well incorporated and like a mixture of the two that it's just like blends together, that it all feels real.
Again, fuck Ridley Scott. This isn't Alien Covenant, where the aliens are
Prometheus.
Where like most of the time it's CGI. These are full moving.
Oh, yeah, the alien at the end of Covenant was like all CGI, wasn't it?
You mean at the very end when it bursts out of his chest?
No,
are you talking about the other one?
No, in Covenant.
Oh, I haven't seen Covenant, but I know they're all CGI in Covenant, though.
Yeah,
they're all CGI in Covenant, and they look like they're CGI.
Yeah,
but in this, like, you can just tell.
It's spooky.
You can, you can just tell. It adds so much believability to what's going on, because imagine if that. Okay, I know I'm going to get a little bit off. I think we may have already talked about this, but this movie...
This might be a longer episode.
It might... Yeah, I know. This movie perfectly... I think you actually talked about this already, but whatever. This movie perfectly fits in the storyline of the movie.
In the storyline,
it perfectly fits in between the first two.
And Aliens.
And
it's
also,
perfect to what... Other than what you mentioned as well, other than like it looking more modern and stuff compared to the other movies, the story-wise and in the like universe... You could watch Alien, Alien Romulus, and then Aliens, and it perfectly
It's a perfect trilogy.
It's a perfect
trilogy.
Trilogy of movies. This is the trilogy.
I also realized something. You know how Alien is green and Aliens is blue? This one's yellow.
Yes.
Color scheme-wise, it's perfect.
It works.
It just works. And also, like, with the story, too, like, this movie is... So Alien, obviously, is more just, like, horror thriller. Aliens is... horror action. This is a perfect
mixture of those two.
It makes it a perfect middle point movie too.
It's more actiony than Alien,
but it's more horror than Aliens.
Yes,
it's a perfect mixture of the two things.
It finds a good balance.
A really good balance. It's an excellent balance. Yeah. Honestly, like the Fede Alvarez and the rest of the team clearly...
And he definitely took a lot of inspiration from Alien Isolation. I don't know if you ever played the game.
But, for sure,
yeah, but there's definitely a lot of... I think even I saw someone mention something that at one point when they're in the lab is a replica of like a save point.
Probably. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised. But I know we've kind of gotten off the story of this. We've been kind of really going deep into the story of this movie, but we're going deep into it.
We'll go to the story and then let's have a little extra time to like talk about our thoughts of what we specifically loved about it. But
this story, I'll just say this now, real quick.
I have two specific nitpicks. Yeah. One I already mentioned was the fucking.
Well, we have the same nitpicks, really, because there was, other than these two specific things we'll get into, it's really a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
But this. What was I going to say? You know what? I'll remember later.
Okay, so they're in the hangar, and so now we're split up off into like two teams, basically. We got Captain Badass, Andy and Rain, and then we got British guy and the pregnant sister
and now dead pilot.
Dead pilot.
So she's dead.
She
yeah, dead pilot.
So she's dead. She's out of here.
Yeah, but we have the alien now officially. Yeah, the alien is here,
and the alien's now taken off.
Alien.
Yeah, taken off. And the sister and wakes up, and she goes to like walk off and go look around because she was like knocked up. This is, I think I went to use the restroom at this point, but you explained to me that because they go to the point where they see the face huggers in the other room because the face huggers come back.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah,
I had to use the restroom like one time during the movie.
Pregnant,
sadly.
So like you said, pregnant sister wakes up and starts exploring. Cut to Captain Badass, Andy, and Rain, and they're trying to get to them now, and they realize that there's a room that's currently locked off, and they can enter it, but they have to go through this way, and the room is filled with face huggers, and Andy realizes, I don't remember how it's explained exactly in the movie, but the point is that he's like, well, they detect you based off of mainly like your heat signature.
Yes.
So if we raise the room temperature to the same body temperature as you two, because he's a synth, so it doesn't matter, but for them it matters. So he's like, if we raise the room temperature, you two should be able to just walk through, and they won't, as long as you're quiet and whatnot, they shouldn't be able to detect you. But you need to stay fucking calm. Yeah. If you get scared or you get goosebumps, he literally says that. If you do get scared, goosebumps, which happens. If anything like that happens, it will change your body temperature and they'll see you.
Yes. And which actually comes to like one of my favorite moments.
It's
so when
great.
when you get to it, I want to talk about it real quick.
So the point is they wait for it. I think there's a little dialogue scene that happens, and I don't remember exactly what they talked about, but
but it switches between the two scenes of the sister waking up and exploring, and then she sees the skin of the.
It's like molted itself.
Yeah. So the life cycle of the alien is from chest burster to the and it molts into the xenomorph, and so she sees the like molting process of as it's turning into the xenomorph in its little like cocoon on the wall, and then that's when British guy shows up and grabs her with the stick.
The cattle prod. He gets it's like a cattle prod bat, basically.
And he's like batting at the face huggers earlier. But
he basically goes step aside and he turns the cattle prod on and the egg
shoves the cattle prod into the cocoon
and
to try to kill it. And it sounds like he
for a second it sounds like he does.
And then the acid blood starts dripping from the cocoon. And he pulls it out, and then he looks because the tail is like right there, and it swings at his face. At first, I thought it ripped his jaw off. I thought like when his ship flew back, I thought I saw his like jaw rip off, but it didn't. It just slashed
his face really bad.
And then he tells the sister to run.
Yeah.
And so the sister's running. He tells the sister to go. So the sister goes. And she's talking to. She gets on the line with the brother. While that is all happening, the Rain, and Captain Badass, and Andy.
They're walking through the room.
Walking through the room to get to the other side of the room, and then there's like face huggers like walking around, staring.
They're like right there.
Yeah,
basically.
like staring at him or trying to like find shit, and they're walking. It's very tense and like it's very tense like scene. And then as they're getting through the room, she gets on the comms and tries to talk to her brother.
Oh, because the door's locked.
The door's
she can't
locked.
Open the door, which is set up earlier actually. Because when British guy and pilot initially come back in, he locks the airlock thing and he drops the keys on the floor.
Yeah, and as she's trying to open up the lock and stuff, the cocoon is opening.
Yeah.
And the acid is falling out, and it falls out onto the British guy. British guy. And it first like melts off his fucking hand and finger. It's like slowly dribbling at first, so it's getting all like fucked up. And it's kind of grody.
Yeah.
And his like fingers like melting to the bone.
Yeah.
And he's like, ah, and then it like falls on his chest, and his chest kind of like
just splits in half.
It just like spurts out blood, and then he's dead.
Yeah. But that moment, the alien being birthed
is pretty gnar,
was
dude.
Amazing.
Yeah, that looked practical as fuck. There's definitely the close-ups of when the like claws were like coming out. That had to be practical.
I really, 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 it looked so real. I want a behind-the-scenes breakdown of if that. I want to know if that was real. It looked so fucking good. I was like, this is amazing. The fact that if that's okay, it doesn't matter if it's CGI or if it's practical. I wish it was practical. If it was CGI, it's some of the most realistic CGI I've ever fucking seen. It's executed so well.
Yeah.
And obviously when the head comes out finally, that was real for sure. Yeah. That looked so real.
It looks like a real birthing process, too.
It does.
The cocoon looks like a fucking vagina.
This is it.
And then the fucking head comes out and the body, the arms and shit, and it's coming out. And then the brother, Captain Badass, gets on, and he's trying to walk his sister through picking up the keys and stuff. And she does it. She gets the door open, and she's like walking through, and falls. There's an edge, and she falls off into the hangar and just
knocks herself out.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
and like knocks out. And then the brother hears this and is trying to like talk to her some more.
And then he gets goosebumps.
Because he doesn't get his sister, and you see him cry.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't hear his sister back, and he gets goosebumps. And I heard this line in the trailer, and the way he said it in the trailer, I was like, I fucking love it so much, and it works so even better in the movie. Yeah, and it says all Andy and all, what's his name again? The actor?
David Johnson.
David Johnson is one word. The way he says run is so fucking good, dude. It's so fucking good. Just from that first trailer.
It's amazing.
Dude, he's just like the deadpan, like the realization that they are fucked right there, and he's just like,
it's amazing.
Run.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's so good.
And then the shots too. Yeah. Like that was another thing with the camera work in those scenes with the face huggers. The camera's fucking moving, man. It's moving. Yeah. It's and booking it.
And you're booking it with them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then they get through the fucking doors. First Andy's ahead of everybody, and then Rain, and Andy shuts the door. And then Rain gets in.
It starts closing, and it looks like he's doing it on purpose to make him stay behind. And then they get through. Yeah, and Rain.
Well, Rain gets through pretty early.
Yeah.
And then Captain Badass has to slide through at the last minute, right as
it's closing.
Yeah, and then he's like, "You try to like shut it on me," and he's like, "I calculated it perfectly."
Exactly.
To where
I knew you would get through.
I knew you would get through. He's like, "It was better than it was last time, wasn't it?" And then, yeah, dude. He he threw some shit at him too.
Yeah, it was great.
With that, really quick, I'm Sim.
I'm Patrick.
And we're Wizard Core. Come back for part 2 of Alien Romulus review.